I stared at the envelope in my hand, the gold embossed lettering catching the light and mocking me with its elegance. It was the invitation to Maya's wedding, another reminder of the world I was never quite a part of. Their world of grandeur and glitter, where wealth was worn like a badge, and I was always the outsider. I sighed and placed the invitation on the kitchen table, my heart heavy with the familiar ache. Since I'd chosen a quieter path, living in a modest home with a simple job, my family had made it clear I didn't measure up. At every gathering, they'd ask the same questions, their voices dripping with judgment. Still working that little job? Where's your husband this time? Off saving the world again? They never said it outright, but their smirks said everything. Ethan and I had made a choice that few understood. While others chased status, we chased meaning. He worked as a doctor in remote regions, offering care where no one else would go. I held down the home front, proud of our shared mission. But try explaining that to a room full of people obsessed with designer dresses and fancy cars. Still, something inside me wouldn't let me say no to the invitation. Maybe it was hope, faint but persistent, that one day they'd see beyond the surface. Or maybe I wanted to walk into that room with quiet dignity, not shame. If you're watching this, pause for a moment and hit that like button if you believe true worth isn't measured by wealth. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications because there's more inspiring stories coming your way. The night of the wedding, I stepped into the grand hall alone. The chandelier above cast golden light on polished marble floors and crystal table settings. Laughter echoed all around me, wrapping the crowd in a warm, dazzling charm I didn't belong to. Almost immediately, the whispers started. She came without her husband again. I caught my aunt's sharp glance at her daughter, followed by a smirk. Maya's friends leaned in, their designer gowns shimmering as they whispered, "Does he even exist? Or is he just imaginary?" I let out a soft laugh, trying to hide the sting. "He's real, just working." Their laughter trailed me like a faint perfume. Light, but sharp. I found my seat near the back, clutching a glass of punch and forcing a polite smile. Around me, people toasted their wealth and shared stories of exotic vacations. No one asked about my life. No one cared to. Needing air, I slipped out to the garden. The cold night bit at my skin, but the silence was a fragile comfort. I leaned on the railing, eyes brimming with tears, not from their cruelty, but from the ache of always feeling like the outsider, the one who never shone bright enough. I wiped the tears away before they fell. Not tonight. I had to get through the evening. Standing there alone, I thought back to nights under a much simpler sky, far from chandeliers and whispers. Ethan and I had sat on a worn blanket, staring at stars that seemed to hold secrets just for us. I remembered when he told me he'd accepted a medical post in a remote village, hundreds of miles away from anything familiar. "They don't have a doctor, Leah," he said, eyes alight with purpose. "They need someone to go." Weeks passed with little contact, phone calls when he could find a signal, letters when he couldn't, and long evenings where I reread the same page in a book, missing him more than words could say. People didn't understand why we chose this life. They thought Ethan could have made 6 figures at a city hospital, that I could have lived in a house with granite countertops and imported tiles. But we weren't chasing luxury. We were chasing purpose. Every time Ethan returned, exhausted but glowing from saving lives, I knew we were exactly where we were meant to be. We didn't have much, but we had a love built on substance, not show. He never bought me diamonds, but once, he walked 10 miles through a storm to bring medicine to a dying child. then sent me a photo of a wildflower he found along the way, knowing I'd like it. In that cold garden, surrounded by strangers wrapped in polished charm and artificial light, I closed my eyes and smiled. They would never understand what we had, but I didn't need them to. What Ethan and I built was real. Real didn't always sparkle, but it always shone. The music inside slowed to a gentle hum as couples began to drift toward the dance floor. I gathered my strength to return to the room, bracing myself for more forced smiles and biting whispers. Then I heard the engine roll up the gravel driveway.
Ethan stepped out of the car, his jacket travel-worn, boots dusty from the road. Tall and steady, he carried a quiet confidence that had nothing to do with looks and everything to do with presence. The chatter inside dimmed, heads turned. He saw me immediately, his face lighting up. Without a glance around, without hesitation, he walked straight to me. In the middle of that glittering crowd, he wrapped me in a warm embrace and kissed my forehead. "Sorry I'm late," he whispered, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. "Had to deliver a baby in a village 200 miles out. No doctor but me." A stunned hush fell over the room. Wine glasses froze midair. Even the DJ paused. My aunt, who had mocked his absence just hours before, stared with her mouth slightly open. Maya's friends, still in their tight dresses and tighter smiles, leaned in closer, this time to listen. Did he say, "Deliver a baby"? And just like that, everything shifted. People approached, questions poured in. "What's it like working in those places? You saved lives? Why haven't we heard about this before?" For the first time that night, they didn't see me as the girl without status. They saw the woman loved by a man who truly mattered. Inside, the room's atmosphere changed. The smug laughter and shallow talk vanished. Clusters of guests gathered around Ethan, drawn not by wealth or charm, but by the stories he told, stories of courage and hope. He spoke softly and humbly about treating a child with malaria during a flood, stitching wounds by flashlight, holding the hand of a mother who had just lost her newborn. They listened, really listened. Even Maya's new husband leaned in, asking questions with genuine curiosity. Ethan never bragged. He simply shared what he loved and why. In doing so, he shifted hearts. I stood to the side, quietly watching, unsure if I could believe what I was seeing. Then my uncle, the one who had called me the quiet one who never quite figured life out, stepped beside me. He looked at Ethan, then at me. "We misjudged you," he said softly. "He's remarkable, and so are you." Tears threatened, but I blinked them back, not out of sadness, but relief. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt seen, not because I changed, because they finally saw the strength I'd carried all along. If you're inspired by this story, hit the subscribe button right now and share this video with someone who needs to hear that true worth comes from heart and purpose, not wealth or status, and leave a comment below. Have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? I'd love to hear your story. Thank you for watching, and remember, your value isn't defined by others. It's defined by the courage to live your truth.